One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. Billy, you guys came out with a brand new strategic plan for American athletics earlier this week, and I want to talk quite a bit about the nuts and bolts, but I actually want to start with a how-to question. And it may be a really simplistic, place to start, but I'm curious myself. How did you know it was time for a new strategic plan for your athletic department?
Yeah, well, Matt, first of all, thanks for having me. This is fantastic. But I'd been here, I've only been here 3 years now, so I had been here just a little bit before my 2-year point. I wanted to spend about a year really focusing on the department as a whole and our place within our institution, and see where we fit and how we were perceived within the institution when I got here, and where I wanted to take us, and where we wanted to go. So that was about a year process, year and a half, and then we got started on the plan right about the 2-year point that I was here, and it was about a year process to get it done. So it took a little bit longer than we had planned, but we wanted to do it right. So that's why I came out at about the 3-year point. I was really shooting for about the 2.5-year point, but it ended up being out to about the 3-year point when it finally came out. So I didn't want to rush into anything until I didn't really have a good feel of the culture and the community here, and but we definitely wanted to get it going so that as a department as a whole, we understood where we were going.
Given your background, and you have a pretty significant background in military and the service academies, of course, you came from Air Force prior to being the AD in 2013, I believe, at American. Is your mindset of leadership predisposed to this type of planning process because of the structure of your military experience? Did you find this to be pretty second nature?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, in the military, you go through these planning process on a much more accelerated kind of a pace, as you move up in ranks. If you're a commander, at least in the Air Force, for the most part, you're on like 2-year stints, So if you go somewhere as a commander, you're going to be in and out in about 2 years. So you really don't have the luxury of taking quite as much time to evaluate your squadron or your group or your wing or whatever you happen to be commanding. So it's a little bit quicker. And obviously a little bit maybe more top-down directed than it is in the educational world, where you want to get more buy-in from the bottom up. So, but yeah, so the process though is very similar. Yeah.
The core values you guys identified as being key to move the department forward or to align the department with are integrity, respect, accountability, and excellence. And I'd love for you to walk me through how and why these 4 became such important points of focus and core values.
Sure. Yeah. Now the core values, those we had established, before we got the plan underway and done. So, that's something that we worked on right away when we got here, is to establish these core values so that everyone in the department understood and came from that same reference point. So these are kind of our touchstones, on what we do. It forms the basis of everything we do. So, that was a process within our department on everybody, what they thought was important, where they came from, and it ended up being pretty easy to come up with these 4 that everybody agreed upon and everybody could live with, and it's we try to plaster that out everywhere we can, within our department, to make sure not just our coaches and staff and administrators, everybody is operating under those core values, but our student athletes as well. I want to make sure that everybody realizes that that's who we are, and that if any accomplishments that we might have without adherence to those core values are really hollow, because that wouldn't be done the right way.
In as efficient of a manner as you can, given that we're not going for a half an hour here, and I know you could spend far more than that on the inner workings of how this process played out. But let's detail who specifically was involved in the strategic planning process?
Sure. We set up like tiger teams, working groups, whatever you like to call them, for each of our areas, and each member of our senior staff kind of took one of those areas, formed a committee with people internal to the department, as well as campus community members, as well as some external members. In some cases, either people on some of our advisory groups, or board of trustees, or just other people that we know had expertise that could help us in those areas. So they formed those, came back with a lot of data, and then it was our job as a senior staff to start whittling that down to make it a manageable amount of information that really focused on where we want to be going, and then we kick that back out to everybody to make sure that each of those groups felt it was an accurate representation of the data that was given to us in the first place.
Was there anything within the process that was surprising to you in terms of what you found, or what those involved in the process voiced and or researched became really important points of focus? Did anything surprise you?
No, I don't think anything really surprising. I guess it wasn't a surprise. I was pleased that so much of it came back that was really in alignment with our mission, our vision, and our core values, and that was kind of the really the only marching order, so to speak, that I gave everybody, was that that's what we have to be focused on, is that everything's built off our core values, our mission statement. We have to really understand who we are as a department and an institution, where we fit in the Division I landscape, and not try to be anybody we're not. And that's in our mission statement, and then our vision on really where we are going, and make sure that everybody's got a clear understanding of where we're taking our department. And everything came back really aligned with that, and I was really pleased with that. And then the other part of that was we had to then ensure that everything we were doing really complemented our university's overall strategic plan. And so we made sure that everything we put in this plan, and everything that all our goals and objectives and our vision didn't contradict anything that the university wants to be doing with its overall plan.
And for those who haven't seen this entire document yet, you guys do really line out each goal and the initiatives under each goal, very specifically. And I want to ask about one, which is provide state-of-the-art facilities. And we certainly hear quite a bit around the industry of the arms race as it comes to, right, as it pertains to facilities. But for an institution that has your all's profile, Billy, of a really high, well-acclaimed academic institution, historically some really solid sport programs, does the quote-unquote arms race, how strongly does that apply to you, or in what framework does that apply to an institution and your peer group?
Yeah, we have to. You nailed it a lot there. We definitely have to be careful not to get enamored with that arms race and sucked into it, because of a number of reasons, of who we are and what we represent as an institution, but also just for pragmatic reasons. We're in an area of DC that's quite an affluent neighborhood, so it's difficult to expand anywhere. There's really not a lot of room for expansion off of our campus by any means, and so everything's pretty expensive around here as well. So our state-of-the-art facility goal is going to be backed up with, which is another thing we're working on now, is a facility master plan that's going to take us down the road with some of the bigger projects that we're looking at. But like anybody, I know that's every size school struggles with coming up with the funding and the plans and the approval process to get that done. And it's definitely a process here within the district to get that kind of things, those kinds of things approved.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I'm curious too, as time goes forward here, how you guys will constructively gauge your progress against your goals and initiatives while staying true, as you mentioned, to your core values and the mission of who you really are. Will that be a defined process, a defined measurement process against these objectives? Will that be more? Yeah, will that be more informal in nature? How will you handle that?
Yeah, we're working on making sure that we have an annual assessment process. That we're gonna assess each of our goals in each of our areas, and then roll that back into to updates on things we're doing to try to meet these goals. Whether that be through our initiatives mostly, because the tactics and the goals shouldn't change, because we've really set those, and that we think we can achieve those reasonably in the next handful of years. So we may be modifying the initiatives as we go through assessment annually.
And this isn't a question as much pertaining to the strategic plan, but I'm interested, especially for institutions in major metropolitan markets. DC is a prime example. New York City would be another. You guys have a significant international population to your student body. Does that make promoting your sports, and of course soccer is the first one that comes to mind, but that's a really basic thought process by me. Does that make it more difficult or actually easier to promote some of your sport programs to your student body because of its makeup and international students that heavily are a part of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's like you said, soccer. Some of them it may be an advantage at some point. I think overall it makes it a little bit more difficult because really, other than the United States, there's not that nexus between athletic programs and the academic institution. Most places in the world, kids are playing club sports. They don't play for their school, for any kind of an institution. So sometimes I'm not sure that all our students understand, the school pride aspect of coming to events and everything. So we really emphasize that early in the year, right out of the chute, in the fall for freshmen, to try to get them involved. And we don't have a football team, so that makes it even a little bit more difficult because sometimes football is that nucleus of spirit, that gets kids hooked right away when they're freshmen. So we try to do it with soccer and field hockey and volleyball right away. And certainly our international students are a big part of that we try to really get them to enjoy and to take pride in being part of the American university student body.
And finally, part of any strategic planning process is some retrospection, I have to believe. And I'd be curious to hear what you think about your first 3+ years at American and how your experience thus far shaped your own input into the strategic plan.
Yeah, to the first part of your question, it's been a fantastic 3 years. I mean, it's gone very, very quickly, but I couldn't be more pleased with being here. It's the student athletes are fantastic. They're here for the right reasons. They're here to get a great world-class education, and at the same time have a quality D1 experience. And we think that those are complementary. They're not mutually exclusive. That I've been really pleased with. Our coaches are great. President Kerwin is a spectacular president and really supports us well. So the 3 years that I've been here, I've really enjoyed my time and it's been very rewarding. Yeah, that's been fantastic. As far as helping us with this process, I think having that little bit of delay, not start until the second year or after 2 years was done, I think that did help me because then I really felt I had a better feel for, like I said, the culture and the workings of the university overall. So it made it a little bit easier for me. Now I had great staff doing this anyway, so even if I didn't have that perspective, it would have come out just as good, maybe even better, without me putting input in it, right? But no, I for me, just for the comfort of it, yeah, I think having a couple of years under my belt here, I felt like I had a better feel for the roots of the whole institution.
And that's today's One Question, brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996. One Question is designed to give D1 Ticker subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences. One Question is brought to you by Turnkey Search, a top industry search firm since 1996.